So my first trade, done and dusted. The $10 Lucky Red packet is off to a start. On Friday, I managed to secure my first deal, my first trade, and for me, that was a tri-party deal. Now, what a tri-party is when there's more than two parties involved. It wasn't just a straight me trading something with someone. It had a third party involved as well. Now, what happened that day was there were on the Friday morning, I woke up and I hopped onto Instagram to check if there's been any messages about the trade. And to my surprise, one of my friends reached out to me saying that he had a washing machine that he didn't want, and it was taking up space in his living room. And so we texted back and forth, and I said, yeah, I'd love to take the washing machine off you just to kick off this experiment. And so I asked him a bit about the details. It ended up being a fairly new Samsung 7-litre washing machine. And it was operating perfectly fine. It was just taking up space in his living room in his apartment, and he wanted to use that space to put down some other furniture, and his wife really wanted it to be gone. And so I said, yeah, sure, I'd love to make this trade with you. Let me see if I can find someone who's willing to take the washing machine so that I don't have to think about moving something so large a couple of times. And he said, well, mate, there's a caveat, and that's it needs to be gone by tonight because the wife really wants it to be out of the apartment. And so I was like, okay, give me a few hours. I'll suss around and see what I can get for this. And I record that my girlfriend had recently moved out of a share house, and she took her washing machine with her. And so I quickly reached out to her housemates to see if they had already replaced the washing machine that they were using. And to my surprise, they hadn't. And the person I reached out to mentioned that they were doing washing by hand for the past few weeks, and that they were actually fairly desperate for a solution to this. And I said, look, tell you what I can do. I can pick up this washing machine, but I have to drop it off to you tonight. And he said, yep. And I said, well, what are you going to trade for? Trade me for? And he searched around, and he found a fairly new Nintendo Mini. So I think it's a Super Nintendo Mini with the 2021 built-in games, and I think it goes for $120 at Big W. It's one of those retro games. And I'm like, okay, Nintendo, that's a fairly big brand name, but it's not quite the value of a washing machine. And so I asked him if there was anything else he could put into the bundle. And he searched around, and he's a big fan of basketball, and he's in his mid-30s, so he grew up in that NBA era. And he mentioned he's got these two Michael Jordan vinyl pop limited edition characters or figurines. And I quickly had a YouTube search, a Google search, and I realized that they'd been sold out in Australia for the past few months. The retail value was about $50 each, and I'm like, okay, that's not bad. The total bundle brings it up to about $200. And then I was kind of stuck on what to do with the delivery, because I drive a pretty small car, not big enough to fit a washing machine. And so I reached back out to my original friend who was getting rid of the washing machine. And I said, yep, I think I found a solution to this. I've got someone who's willing to take the washing machine off your hands. And I said, well, what about delivery? How are we going to sort that out? Do you have a truck or something? And and this friend of mine says he's got a mate who happens to have the day off, and they're pretty close. And that guy's got a ute. And as long as we're willing to help put the machine the machine in the ute, and it's not going too far, then he'd happily come along and help us deliver it. So I went to work that day knowing that this was just about complete, this deal. It was a three-way deal, had to coordinate a lot of things. and a few people have asked me, why did I accept the Nintendo and the Michael Jordan pop vinyls so quickly when the washing machine was worth much more value? It could have easily been sold for a couple of $100. I'm sure other people might have put in offers, and I didn't have to take it straight away. And then I'd actually thought about all of that early in the morning before I accepted the deal. And the reason I did that is because I'd realized that this was a very bulky item. And so inherently there's a holding risk involved with this type of good. So with the delivery, somebody's willing to deliver it. If they're willing to deliver it to my place, that's fantastic. But then once I sell it, I have to think about moving it again, and that might be a little bit risky if nobody has a truck or a ute or anything that can carry it. And so there was a bit of holding risk in logistics from what I've come across at work. This is no different to selling items when you're in retail and you buy too many and they're left in a warehouse. And so then the item, it doesn't get stale, but because it doesn't move, it becomes a headache because you have to store it and then you have to move it a few more times. So I knew that in order for this trade to be successful, I really had to find a buyer for it and only get it dropped off once. Which is why the first deal that came about, I was like, yep, I'll jump on it. It's easier for me to move a mini Nintendo and 2 little Michael Jordan pop vinyls that's worth about $200 retail than it is to move a washing machine. And so I teed up the deal. After work, hopped in my car, went to my mate's place, helped them load the washing machine up, dropped it off, delivered it, and everyone was happy. My friend who needed the space in his living room, he was able to get rid of it, was free up the space. And then my other friend who needed a washing machine so that they didn't have to continue hand washing clothes, they were able to solve one of their big issues as well. And so at the moment, I've currently got stuck with me the Super Nintendo with the 2 Michael Jordan pop vinyls. And straight away I was pretty stoked, not only because of the items that I've received, but more so because of the experiment had actually taken off over social media. A lot of people have been following this story. People I come across when I go to training, people ask me, how's it going? Where are we up to now? And people are genuinely intrigued by the way that this is rolling out, which is fantastic. The experiment itself is coming along. I've found that with negotiations, there's a couple of things here. There's a time factor involved. When an offer comes through, it's human nature to get a bit excited. But unless you think things through properly, you're not going to know whether or not the deal is going to work. So if I had have accepted the washing machine without thinking further, then I may have been stuck with a washing machine sitting in my living room and not having the space to move around in my house, and trying to offload that will be a headache for me. So one of the big takeaways here is, before you accept any offers, you might get that little rush inside you to say, yes, fantastic, I've secured a deal. But think through the logistics of how it's going to be moved around. How big is it? Storage, warehousing. This is something I've picked up over my time working in procurement at Kmart. When logistics is a big issue, when things have to move off a ship into a warehouse, it's no different to that. I guess the only factor here is I don't have any contracts with logistics companies, so for me I'd have to go source a van or source a ute myself. The other thing here is understand what types of risks are involved when doing a trade. For me, straight away I knew holding risk was one, and the value in what you're trying to sell for the next phase of the trade. So for me it was, yes, there's a washing machine, But then there's also value in the Nintendo and the Michael Jordan pop vinyls. As a package, there's a bit of nostalgic value there, because a lot of people that are friends with me or inside my network on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram, they're around my age. So they're part of that same era when Nintendo and NBA was really front and center of everything we did. And so as a package, I'm thinking, yeah, somebody who's in my network will probably like this. It might make a really good gift or a really good present for someone else, or they might just want to reconnect back to their early childhood days when they did play with the Super Nintendo, or they did have Michael Jordan trading cards. And so I'm like, yep, I'll make the trade. It's easier to move. Now, what's happened, what's transpired since then? There's been a few things. I've put it up on Facebook straight away on Friday to let everyone know that the trade was complete. And within the space of 48 hours, I've received about 3 separate offers for the bundle. So one of them was a Muhammad Ali fully framed picture of one of his greatest moments inside a fight. And I kind of put that one on hold because I don't know anyone who would be too keen on that. Another one is, I've got a mate who I train with in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he owns his own tattoo studio. And he's offered me $200 in tattoo vouchers, and I've asked him to show me the vouchers and to talk me through how that works, and he's going to get back to me pretty soon. And then my brother-in-law, who is running on the side a diffuser business, where him and my sister are selling diffusers at markets. They make their own diffusers. They're selling it at markets. They're selling it online. They're selling it to people they know. He wants to offer me a box of diffusers, and so I need to now think about how am I going to, where's the value in all 3 offers for the next trade. So instantly I'm thinking, with the vouchers for the tattoo studio, people in my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu network, or people who are in corporate who cover up their tattoos, they might be interested in the voucher because they might need to go have a touch up of their existing tattoos, or they might want new tattoos. But then the majority of my publicity at the moment is going out on LinkedIn. So I'm not sure how that would fare with the corporate folk. But then who knows? It could be for the novelty's sake of having something different. That might be a win. The Muhammad Ali picture frame, that one I might put on hold. I don't see how that could bring too much value to the next trade. And then my brother-in-law's diffuser offer is actually really, really fascinating. So a few months ago, I was helping them out at a market, and there were quite a lot of inquiries about these diffusers. And because they sell them for $20, they're reasonably cheap, or the price-wise, they're fairly cheap, and they smell pretty good as well. And so a lot of people have been inquiring about them, and I've seen how the diffusers are actually quite attractive to quite a large market. So instantly I'm thinking, who would benefit from diffusers? The likes of hotels, restaurants, any retail sort of businesses that need nice smells inside the stores. I may be able to reach out to people on LinkedIn to see if they do run hotels, whether or not they'd like the publicity of being part of this experiment, and also to maybe trade something like a couple of free nights in their hotels. Yeah, still thinking up ideas. I think tomorrow, when I get some time, I'm gonna have a big brainstorm out of these 3 offers. At the same time, I think I'm gonna have to think about how else am I gonna generate more offers. I don't like holding too many people on hold. I don't like putting too many people on notice waiting for a better offer. But at this stage, it really hasn't kicked up to the next value point that I'm looking for. Some people have asked me over the course of the weekend, what's my end goal here? So Kyle, the guy who ran the red paperclip challenge out in Canada in 2007, he set out for a house, and he was able to secure a house by the end of his 14 trades. I'm gonna set the bar quite high. I don't know if I'll reach it. I don't know if I'll get anywhere close, but I reckon why not try for $1 million? So I'm gonna put it out there to say, out of this trade, hopefully, see if this experiment will get me to $1 million. Now I'm sure the ATO would have something to say about that. I'm sure the government would want their piece as well. So let's see, I'll cross that hurdle when it comes. But at the moment, let's say that my target is for $1 million. So each trade would have to get bigger and bigger. And yeah, I'm just waiting for offers to see how far this thing can go. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. If you're following me on this podcast, I'm also on LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok. I'll be updating a lot of offers and a lot of trades up on those platforms, especially LinkedIn. That seems to be getting the most traction, the most awareness, and I'm really keen to see how far this experiment can go. It's gotten off to a good start. We've only had one trade, and already we're sitting at the value of around $200. So I'm looking forward to what this week has to offer, and hopefully I can be a little bit more creative on how I design some of these trades to start involving more people, or generate more awareness for it. I'm really intrigued. Hopefully you found this valuable as well. And stay tuned, and I'll keep you guys and everybody updated as it progresses. Thanks everyone. Catch you soon.